All right. So, yeah, as said before, getting a little bit better at coming back up with some regularity with the videos. There was one thing I was thinking about after this year's Asian festival a couple weeks ago. Is that even though, okay, my demo might be half hour, 45 minutes or something. I haven't done an hour in a couple of years because last couple of years it's just been me. And this year it was someone helped me again, but it was the first time I've done it in a few years. So keep it easy, keep it cool, half hour, 40 minutes, good. But it's interesting because in that half hour, 40 minutes, even though I might train for two, three, four times that or something on my own, it doesn't have the same amount of as doing a demo, for example, or performing in some way, even doing the accursed tournaments. Uh, Now, I understand that philosophically, I'm getting this out of the way now, because I know there's going to be someone somewhere be like, there's no difference between if you're going to teach, if you're going to do demos, or you're practicing every day, it's supposed to be the same thing. It's not. Until you can show me an enlightened Taoist immortal or bodhisattva or some enlightened alchemist who gets it, who is genuinely awakened to a natural enlightened state, and everything really is like that. They're Buddha-like, they're God-like, they're immortal, whatever it is that you want to call it. And unless you showing me that person, I don't care. It's going to be a difference because the vast majority of us, and I'm putting myself in this as well, are not awakened to their initial enlightened state. I'm not a Taoist immortal. I'm not a awakened bodhisattva or anything like that. I'm an idiot, which probably isn't very good self-promotion as you're watching this video. But when it comes down to it, and look at all the things that I could know, and even with this subject versus other ones, yeah, I ain't got it. I'm not a god. I'm not enlightened at this point in time in my life at this moment. So there is a difference, and there's going to be a difference for everyone who's not enlightened. So I'm going to get that out of the way now. And if you disagree with that, I can understand that. And I agree that philosophically, there isn't a difference. Practically, however, there is, because we're not enlightened. And I'd like to add, just as a little sidebar here, if you're going to get pissed off, upset, obscenities, really feel the need to sit there and make a comment about me or somebody else and be like, it's no different. You know what? Take a step back because clearly you're not as enlightened as you think because you're getting upset over this idiot saying whatever bollocks that I'm spouting. So, doing a demo, a performance, doing a tournament, even teaching is going to be different on some level than when you practice on your own. And part of the main difference is, and I'm not saying that people or myself or anyone else, when they're practicing on their own, the mindfulness isn't there. The idea of, okay, well, I'm practicing this with the best of my abilities. Right now, all I'm putting into it is all that I have in me now. I'm not saying people don't do that. I train pretty hard on my own every day, as when I can, how I can, everything. However I can fit it in is what I'm doing, and I'm there for it, and I'm going. However, when you're teaching, you got to be on. All right, you got to be aware because someone's going to have a question, and it's especially if you're really just phoning it in, it's going to be a question you can't phone in. It's going to be a question that you need to stop and think and be like, oh, that's a really good question. I don't know. I got nothing right now. But so you need to have something, even if it's the awareness and the wherewithal to be like, you know what? I get the sort of feeling for me in my experience, it might be ABC, but I'm going to go and research that and we can talk about it next time because it could be XYZ, could be JKL, could be MLML, whatever. You need to be on so you can pay attention. Not only that, but you've got to be on because you're watching your students. You got to make sure that if you're phoning it in or you're not caring or you're just sort of like, I don't even know what I'm doing right now, you're not doing them any service. And if you're playing with them, because the way I've been taught to teach and the way I teach, I don't just sit there, I show you the thing once and then go to the thing and then putter about and figure it out. I'm sitting there and I'm playing almost the whole time with my students. And then, I mean, especially since, I mean, I'm not teaching for a living. I don't have, you know, 8 classes a day, every day, 6 days a week or anything like that. So, I'm not just sort of super burned out by it. But again, that was also the way I was taught to teach. So, I'm playing that whole time. And if you're playing and your students should be watching you and they're watching you and you're phoning it in, that is going to translate down. Only if you're fairly decent, your phoning it in might still be better, quote unquote, than the other people who are trying really hard. So they're going to try really hard. They're going to mimic your phoning it in and think that's the way it is. So now you've sort of handicapped their practice for however amount of time it takes you to sit there and go in and be like, no, 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 it's like this, and correct, mold, whatever you need to do for it. But that could have been uh, cut off at the pass, so to speak, if that would have been allowed to, if you kind of paid attention. I'm guilty of this. I've done it before where it's just sort of like, man, like where did this come from? Oh, well, when I showed it to him, it was it's been once or twice. I'm way better at it now, but when you're first sort of learning how to teach and you've got your first few classes kind of solo without your teacher kind of there, just kind of doing one of these like, I let you do what now? Why? Something like that. There's sometimes some things that a little bit of growing pain. It's with everybody, it's with every job, it's with everything. The point is you learn from it, you make the corrections, you go in and you help other people go. Because if you're teaching, it's not about you. It's not about your practice, it's not about your teaching, it's about how to get the other person better. It's sort of like, now I don't have kids, but I've worked with mental health and behavioral health kids for like 10 years now, so I can at least say something with some amount of uh, uh, knowledge and background experience of it. You want to make the next generation better than you. That's the ideal. Not just progress for progress sakes, because that's really scary, but the idea of, I made these mistakes, you're going to make mistakes too. Don't make these mistakes that I already made. So I made them. I learned from them. Learn from these mistakes. Make your own mistakes, and help evolve everything up and forward. Because there might be someone who knows. They say it was like, okay, well, it's, Tai Chi and internals and all this other stuff. There might be someone, they get the right teachers or something like that. Sometime down the line, even now, something I don't know, somehow gets it, some sort of like, percolating Taoist immortal sitting in there and is able to tell everyone, like, it's like this. And they put it in just such a way that everyone just goes, oh my God, that's it. That's amazing. And we raise the vibrational level of the whole planet like overnight. But if that boy, girl, or something else didn't have that teacher who was sort of just like, oh, it's fine, they might not get to that point. Now it's an extreme case, way on one end, kind of the spectrum of it. But you kind of got to think of the Native Americans kind of have that, or some Native Americans kind of have that idea. I don't want to lump everyone together. It's like 500 tribes, so I apologize, not trying to lump everyone together. But that idea of 7 generations. What are you doing now, and how will it affect that going out into the future? What are you putting out now that will affect that, and how will that be affected? You want to do better for those generations instead of making their lives harder. So that's what teaching. Performing, demos, and I'm sort of lumping competing in tournaments in with that because there is the idea, even in tournaments, of there's a certain performance to it. There's a certain, you're trying to kind of, it's this. But with internals, you kind of are like, it's this, but I'm very cool about it. Because especially if you're getting someone like me as a judge, because I've seen it where people, oh, they've got wonderful flexibility, wonderful athletic skills. They got that sort of modern wushu, flippity-flu kind of thing going on, but it's not Tai Chi. Oh, well, you had these wonderful low stances, you did this other stuff, but you stuck your tailbone out when you're playing Chen Tai Chi. This isn't Tai Chi. I'm not going to give you the score you obviously think you deserve. because it wasn't appropriate Tai Chi. You stopped and posed. We're not doing that in Tai Chi. You've got to keep continuous. Xingyi and Bagua too. You don't stop and pose. You want to stop and pose, go do modern wushu. I'm sure some of the other external things might have that built in too. My thing's internal. I'm telling you, you got to keep moving. If you're stopping and posing, you're not going to get the score you want. But that's part of it too, with the idea of, okay, these are the parameters for internals. How do I put those in and put them out and still be interesting, still be cool, still have in the realm of competition? How do I stand out from the other people, especially if you know you're doing something that has a lot of people, like Yang Taiji is going to have more competitors in most tournaments than if you're doing Chen or other, or there's a Wu, or if they have a Sun or anything. The Yang is probably going to be the biggest set. How do you distinguish yourself from that while still holding on to appropriate internal principles? Same thing with demoing and performing, because you want people to be entertained. You want people to be, look at that, there's a fine line, because yeah, you do. Again, I'm not enlightened, so yeah, I like it when people are just like, hey, you did a good job. You kind of get some of those old school people, maybe people who've played Tai Chi for a while, or teachers, or just some of the older generations of people who, would know better. They had seen other stuff that comes before, and they kind of give you it's pretty good, right? I was like, oh, good, cool. You know, there's part of you that's looking for that. Let's be honest with it. There's part of you that's looking for that. And also, you want to put it out there a little bit where this is going to be interesting. So maybe little kids or anyone, little kids from younger people to middle-aged people to older people, whatever. People who you think that can benefit from this the way you've benefit from this, if they look out and they're watching your demo, as internally correct as it might be very, now I can sit there and watch someone do the long form of Yang star routines, and if they're very good at it, I'll spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes watching them and thinking about it and analyzing it, and I can be entertained by that if the person's a good practitioner. Most people aren't. So if I have an hour slot to fill, whether it's a workshop or a demo or anything like that, I'm not spending 20, 30 minutes playing Yang's long form. Sorry, Yang's long form. I'm not doing it. Now, the long form might get in there together. Maybe I have 3, 4 people with me and we all play the first section in the beginning, and then we do something else. And then someone goes on with the second section, and we do something else, and someone does the third section. Or maybe we got something going on and maybe we do the third section, a couple other things in front, however you decide to stage it. But I'm not sitting there and making you watch me do 20 minutes of Yang stuff. Most people are going to go, you lost me 15 minutes ago, if you're lucky. So there has to be a little bit of showmanship with it. There has to be a little bit of, okay, I'm really making sure this is correct. This is inspirational for others, inspirational for yourself. The one thing I liked about competing was the intensity of the training going up to it. I liked that. It was like this kicking my ass. It was, no, it's got to be like this. This is how you're going to do it. You're going to be competing. It's got to look like this. It's got to feel like this. It's got to da-da-da, tick, 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 tweak in there, and I keep on going and play harder, go in, do more. Cool. I like that. Same thing with kind of demos and performing. To a certain extent, there's some things that I'm just sort of like, all right, I'm just going to put this in my usual practice. If I'm doing, these maybe 3 forms in a 15-minute, half-hour thing, I know people, however we're working it, I want these 3, 4 things in there. I'll practice that probably every day or something like that. So it's in there, it's in the thing, but it's going to be much more part of a kind of a regular practice now. That's part of that's just because of the way I've been doing it, and for as long as I have. But that's me, and that's how I keep myself in the appropriate internal category of it. Because I know, given that I was acting theater training, and having been an audience member, going, before, you know, I can kind of understand. And I search out feedback too. So if people are kind of, I'm like, oh, how'd you like? What was going on? What would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? How would you think that this could be better? I seek out feedback. Um, because yeah, I might miss something. I might know that, okay, well, when I did X, Y, or Z, that was kind of crap. Or, um, the idea I had to set something up was good in my head, but didn't maybe translate well. Maybe it was raining or something, but it was like, all right, well, let's come back, reassess. But I want the other data in there too. Uh, but, I understand not everyone does that. Not everyone wants that, and that's fine too. But if you're going to demo, if you're going to teach, if you're going to do performances, if you're going to compete, be prepared ahead of time for that mentality of this is going to be different than my daily practice. It's going to be a little different. And then you have to prepare for that and prepare for that by, you recognize it and be like, okay, this is going to be different. It's a performance. I do performances. I'm drained. I play on my own for 2, 3 times longer than my performance. It's pretty good. Maybe a little tired, legs are a little sweaty, but pretty good. After performance, feed me food and nappies, not diapers, but sleepy nappies. Because you're putting out more energy for it. So you have to prepare yourself. Know it beforehand. Know that's what's going to happen. Get that in. Just accept it. I'm not saying set yourself up to be now attached to this other thing. No, I'm not saying to be attached for it all. If you can free yourself of that attachment, then by all means, do it and don't look back. But realistically speaking, I can probably safely infer that if you're going to do a demo, you're going to do a competition, you're going to do a performance or something, or a workshop, you're going to run that, I can reasonably infer probably not a Taoist immortal, probably not fully realized awakened Buddha. Doesn't mean you might not ever be. Doesn't mean it might not be when you get done or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I can reasonably infer, though, that at that moment when you're doing that, probably not. I'm not. Feel it's a safe bet. So understand that this is going to be what's going to happen. Just like you understand that if you're going to, I didn't want to add, but if you're going to compete or something like that, not everyone's going to like it. People are going to think that it's crap. And even if you are able to kind of detach yourself from the idea of, all right, well, this performance, I'm just going to practice it normally and it's going to be cool. There is no difference between my daily practice. You're able to do that? Great. Legitimately be able to do that, not just say, oh yeah, I detached from that anyway. And you come off feeling exactly like you do when you come off of training on your own. And going into it, you feel exactly like you do without going in. No nerves, no, kind of, all right, let's go. No sort of another bloody demo. You're able, the whole way through, you're in that lockdown, laser focused Zen mode before, during, and after. Great, but that's on you. Now, how are you going to feel when people start coming out to you and giving you feedback, either positive or negative, somewhere in between? How are you going to feel now if someone basically starts kind of like challenging you in some way? They might be full on, hey man, you're pretty good. You and I, we're going to go back out here and let's see how you really do it. Something. You might get that. I hope you don't, but you might. Or you might get someone who really kind of gets that, yeah, I've done martial arts for a while. Yeah, and a lot of different stuff. Yeah, my teacher made up his own style. I made up mine. Yeah, I really think, that some of that other stuff is crap. But, I think maybe you and me should, like, train sometime. We should train sometime, you know? Because what they're really saying is like, I want to fight you because I think that you're and I can beat you up. And maybe you can. Maybe you can't. Maybe it doesn't matter either way. But you have to be prepared for the reality of what it is. I work in mental health. Our restraints are not realistic. We used to be prone, 2 people across the one side, people on the legs and the other ones. Now it's 3 people on each arm here, 1 person on the legs. They want you on the legs above the knee. So the legs are straight above the knee. And when you watch a 70-pound kid violently buck a 300-pound trained, skilled, practiced, experienced staff, it's crap. Because the people who made it, the people who made some of these rules, people who made some of these ideas, don't have the practical experience. People are saying, oh, it's all right if you just go on and like hit stuff and get that energy out. But what are you training your mind to do at that point in time? You're training your mind that when I'm upset, when I'm angry, I hit things. And these people who are supposed to be in some way, shape, or form figures of authority are telling me that that's a cool thing to go. So all you've done is perpetuate that violence. Now, people might think that's a good idea if they don't have any training. Training in that could be martial arts. Training in that could be living situations. There are people who might have a more suburban background who are going to have a different perspective on things from a more urban versus a more rural background. However, if I just ignore, if I think, oh yeah, it's fine, I grew up in the suburbs, go ahead and hit stuff, get the energy out, great. But I ignore the people who are sitting there going, I might want to stay away from that or something like that. I'm not facing the reality of what's going on. If now I'm going, well, this, that, and the other, this kid is kind of like this, choked a female staff at the last thing or something like that, I'm going to have to know that to me, I hear choked and attacked female staff. 2 things that I'm kind of like, this is kind of my sensitive things about. You need to know what your triggers are. We call them like that. And if you try and get some sort of mental health thing and you're like, I have no triggers, bye, because that's crap. You have triggers. Everyone has triggers. Again, unless you can present to me someone who is definitively, without any question, you can see their aura, whatever smells that they're supposed to emanate or anything like that, and I can look and be like, enlightened immortal being, I understand what it's supposed to look like now. Unless you're showing me that, probably not enlightened. You're going to have triggers. Accept it, find out what they are, work on sort of not necessarily not letting them trigger you, but work on not attaching to that sort of or sort of feeling with that. So it's not going to be get them out of your head, throw it out, or you're a bad Buddhist or you're a bad Taoist, you don't know Tai Chi, and you're a bad. That's crap. That's crap. There does have to be. Sometimes some of the Asian philosophies kind of get. I don't know if it's a translation or a cultural thing or just my interpretation, where sometimes it gets a sort of like, well, this is the way you're supposed to be, and if you're not like that, you're not that, and that's not good. But then you get some of the Western sort of stuff that's just sort of like, you're a god. It's like, stop. Middle. Okay, have that sort of thing where you can reasonably kind of talk about what you are and who you are and be able to say, yeah, I have proficiency in this, I have deficiency in that, I'm working on both. My triggers are, for example, like at work, my triggers, I don't see people go after necks, really bothers me. I don't like that. And, assaulting staff in general, but especially going after female staff. Now, could be, say what you will about it, it's something that bothers me. I do still kind of, it's nothing against my female coworkers, my female friends, loved ones, any of that other stuff. I personally still have that. I'm the guy. I'm supposed to be. I got this. I'm going to shield up in front of the ladies. Again, there's women I know and train with beat the shit out of me. If push came to shove, something happened, I'd still instinctually sort of go into that mode. They'd probably jump over me, kick me in the face for being an idiot, go over there and person down, come on back up and be like, next, without breaking a sweat. I'm still going to think of, I'll put myself in. But that's me. And I understand that that's something I do. which goes back again into this, that looking at these situations realistically. You've got to look at the situations realistically and where you're at mentally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and all that other stuff. There'll be days you're going to teach. You don't want to teach. You want to stay home. You don't want to go. But you got to go because it's not about you. And since it's not about you, you still got to put the best effort that you can. If your best effort that night isn't the same as your best effort some other night or day or something like that, you're only human. That's to be expected. But you still have to put that in because you can't just expect to just sort of ride on your laurels. You can't do it because that won't translate right out to the other thing. And if you're going to perform or demo, people will know when even people who don't know, for example, again, I'm talking Taiji, talking internals, even people who don't know internals well are going to look at you and just be like, I don't know what it is, but he sucks. And, you know, they might miss an opportunity to help themselves in some way, to learn something that might help them progress. And you've lost the opportunity to practice things that help you progress because you allowed yourself, you made a choice to feed into the sort of instead of rising above it. So, to sum up about 25 minutes of rambling, incoherent nonsense, unless you have awakened to your natural enlightened state, you're a Taoist immortal, a Buddha, Bodhisattva, uh, uh, realized alchemist, you full-blown gnosis, whatever it is that you go for with it, unless you're like that, if you're playing martial arts, I'm talking, again, I'm kind of bringing it in internally now, because again, it's a little different thing. If you're going to demo, you're going to teach, you're going to perform, you're going to do workshop, you have to prepare yourself that it is going to be different than your daily practice. And then work towards eventually getting to where it isn't different. So that's that's me for right now. And I thank you for watching, listening, everything else, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will be more mindful and professional about getting other stuff done and things finished and stuff like that. So, thank you. Bye.